and welcome to the Brain-Gut Hormone Connection. It's Jacqui Watts here from Healthful Wellness, and I'm here with Danielle Elliott from Tummy Rescue to talk to you all about the brain, the gut, and the hormones and the intricate connection that they have and the role they play in the body. First, I just want to start off by introducing Danielle. Danielle Elliott has been working with patients for over 14 years, and she now gets to focus on patients who have digestive complaints. After her husband was diagnosed with celiac disease 8 years ago, she dived into the world of gut health and her true passion developed. Since then, Danielle has self-published her book, Gluten Free and Happy, which helps people with celiac disease and non-celiac gluten sensitivity. And this helps people navigate all the aspects of this complicated world to learn to protect their health and also living without fear. She has also had an article published and been interviewed numerous times on gut health. I really can attest for Danielle's strong ability to educate her clients, and she is just such a wonderful naturopath in this area. So we're so lucky to have her here today. And myself, I fall in the path of the hormone area. So I have a really keen interest in female hormones and supporting health by finding the underlying cause. I have a really strong passion for Dutch hormone testing and taking a functional medicine approach to balancing women's hormones and bodies. I really love to empower and educate women so they can easily recognize imbalances and take action using natural therapies. I've been practicing in my clinic for over 13 years, and like Danielle, consults Australia-wide and in my clinic in Somerton Park. So today we're going to be talking about the connection, and what we need to remember is all these areas in our body all interconnect. So we're going to be talking about your brain and your stress health, how that impacts the gut health and the hormone health, and vice versa. These all have a strong impact on the body, and we're here tonight to educate you about how this works. We hope you enjoy.
So we want to go through why digestion is so critical for your health. So sometimes we think that, digestion is just to eat food, get it in there, fill the hole, we're not hungry, and also to give us energy. We know that food gives us energy for our day. But we also need really good digestion to break that food down far enough to release the nutrients and minerals. If you're not breaking down your food well enough, you are not going to get those nutrients and minerals being digested correctly or absorbed. We also need digestion to help with pH balance. Now, pH balance is important for every chemical reaction that occurs in the body. So this gives us energy, it helps us to make all the minerals we need, hormones we need. And if pH is not correct, then we are definitely going to suffer with those chemical reactions, and they just don't occur at the right speed or not effectively enough. Digestion also helps to protect us from the outside world. So the digestive tract is simply a tube from mouth to anus. So it's still classed as kind of outside, even though it's inside our body. But the enzymes we make in our stomach actually help to protect us from bacteria on the food or anything that we've come into contact. So again, if you don't have good digestive capacity, you're not going to be protected from infections as much as someone else. It also helps to make hormones, and also Jacqui will go through that more, so I won't touch too much on that. It does feed your microbiota, so whatever food if you break down your food properly and absorb what you need, what you can't break down goes through to feed the bacteria living in your gut. And if you're not breaking down food properly, those bugs are going to have way too much for them, and this can lead to problems. It does remove toxins as well. So your digestive system works to remove toxins from your body, and Jacqui will touch on that more in the hormone section. And it also helps to balance your immune system. So we know that now that 80% of your immune system actually lives in the tissue of your digestive tract. So unhealthy digestive tract, unhealthy immune system. And we all know how important that is right now. And one last one, guys, mental health. So there are so many studies now being done on the connection between the gut and the brain, and how bacteria in your gut affect your brain. And I'll go through that a little bit more tonight as well. Now, we also wanted to make you aware of why the gut and brain connection is so strong. And when you were developing in your mummy's tummy, your gut and brain were actually joined, and then as you grow, they become separated by distance. And this is with the vagus nerve connects them still. So even though they move further and further apart as you develop, the vagus nerve connects them. So that's why some people refer to your gut as your second brain. Now, the vagus nerve, Jacqui will touch on this one too, but it really helps with controlling the movement in your gut, how quickly your gut moves, the enzymes and secretions that you make. So we need a really good smooth connection. We don't want it to be too fast. We don't want it to be too strong. We just want the vagus nerve to control the digestive system really well and have those messages going beautifully between the two organs. It also does affect how you handle your nutrients, and it tells your body and coordinates if you're in fight or flight. So when you're running around doing jobs, thinking, doing work, you know, running to get the kids, you are not in rest and digest, which is what you obviously want to be when you're digesting food. So that is a huge thing. It does communicate information, so the gut will tell the brain if everything's okay or if there's anything to worry about. This is part of, you know, gut feelings and sensations. And if your gut becomes inflamed and you've got issues, you've got imbalances in bacteria, it's going to be constantly telling your brain that something is wrong. And this can create stress and anxiety. And then that stress and anxiety makes your gut condition worse. And it can also mean that you have too much sensitivity in your gut, that there's too many nerves being fired, and that's how you get a lot of pain as well. Now, I really wanted to go and talk about the effects of stress on the gut, and then how does that actually relate to something that you're experiencing? Because for you guys, Jacqui and I know that, you know, we can explain all this physiology, we can explain what's happening, but really you need to know what that can lead to or what that can look like in your body so that it, you know, it's really relevant for you guys. Don't you reckon, Jacqui?
Yeah, exactly. It's key is understanding, isn't it? What your symptoms are. Sure.
Exactly. So the way that the brain and stress, so when you're in a state of stress, and you know, stress doesn't have to mean that you're going through a really big life event. It could just be daily stress, like mums rushing to get the kids, you know, running the household, doing the job, or dads who are under a lot of pressure at work and just doing long hours and not having enough relaxation. So it takes blood away when you're in a stressed state, takes blood away from the stomach. When we are eating food, we definitely need blood around the stomach because that helps us to break food down. Your stomach is squishing your food to break it down, and it needs good blood flow for that. So you can definitely end up with pretty much any digestive symptom from this. So it could be reflux, bloating, gas, cramping. So you can see all that list there, and it can be more, you know, it can pretty much do anything. So when we have stress, we also have, this is through clinical trials, they've found this out, that it actually slows down how quickly the small intestine works. Now, this can lead to overgrowth in the small intestine and something called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Because if the small intestine isn't cleaning out in a timely manner the rest of your food, little bits of dead bacteria, you will get overgrowth. It can also just give you, you know, pain, bloating, some extra farting and burping. It also can either speed up or slow down your large intestine. So even though everything works in a beautiful manner, and it goes from one, you know, area of the digestive tract to the other, they can also have independent, like your small intestine can be slow, but your large intestine can be fast. So it can do either of those, and that can lead to bowel issues, including diarrhea, constipation, Deficiencies, if you haven't got enough time, the food doesn't spend enough time in there to absorb things properly, and pain and bloating. Stress also, within like minutes they've measured, has changed, like creates changes in the microbiota. So these are the bacteria that live in your gut. And that not having balanced bacteria in your gut can again create lots of symptoms, but really constipation, diarrhea. You can have irritable bowel syndrome or that gut infection again, SIBO, and immune issues, because your gut bacteria do help to balance your immune system. Also, there can be an increase, stress can increase chemicals that have been measured as well, that actually damage your small intestine and lead to leaky gut, which we'll go through soon as well. But leaky gut can give you digestive symptoms, as well as hormone issues and immune issues, autoimmunity, so things like inflammatory bowel disease, celiac disease. Once you have a leaky gut, you really are set up for lots of other things. Stress can create, as we said, via the vagus nerve, increased perceptions of pain in the gut, or you might just feel things. I've had patients tell me they can feel their poo moving through their bowel because they have extra sensitive guts. This has also been tested with clinical tests as well with patients. And also you don't heal your gut as well. So decreased regenerative capacity. So if you have leaky gut, you're not going to be healing it as quickly. That can lead to more food intolerances, pain, inflammation, which can also affect your hormones, as Jacqui will talk about, inflammation.
Well, that just a question, Danielle, from me.
Yep.
With that pain, what about with endometriosis? Is that going to aggravate that as well?
Yes, so things like endometriosis, because that is an inflammatory and pain condition, that inflammation that's happening in the pelvic cavity can go back into the gut and create what we're just about to talk about, leaky gut. That can allow more bacteria back into the pelvic cavity, and the cycle just keeps continuing.
Okay, interesting.
So yeah, as Jacqui said as well, like with pain, you need to work out, is it the gut or is it the pelvic area? Is it a hormonal issue? Because especially for women, everything is so close in that pelvic area. Sometimes I've had patients think they have irritable bowel pain, which they definitely could have still irritable bowel, but it was coming from endometriosis. And Jacqui, investigates this as well, like in her clinic every day.
Yeah. And I see the opposite as well. Sometimes the endo clients, yes, they've got endo, but then a lot of the issues is the constipation, and just believing that, isn't it, can make such a big difference. So
huge difference.
Working on both of those. Yeah, interesting.
So we also wanted to go through with you what leaky gut is. In the medical world, it's called intestinal hyperpermeability, because our gut is permeable, because we do need to absorb minerals and vitamins and water through that barrier. But that's all that should be getting through. But when we have a leaky gut, which you can see on the right hand side, and if you're on a computer, you'll obviously see this picture better than if you're on a phone. But the tight junctions between the cells kind of become separated. So this is what it should look like. And really that's only going to let food and really well digested food through, like the minerals and the actual small components. But if you have this situation going on, everything else can get through. So bacteria that shouldn't be getting through, undigested food that shouldn't be getting through. And this creates systemic wide inflammation. And Jacqui will go through how this affects your hormone health as well and balance. But just know that a lot of people have this, and you really want to get that healed. Anyone with gut issues, I don't test for leaky gut anymore because I just know that you've got it, so we need to heal it. I'd rather, spend the money from that testing on other testing to see if there's anything else going on that I might not be 100% sure on.
Yeah, I agree. And there was someone that just asked about permeability testing, leaky gut testing. But, I agree, like if you've got any sort of gut symptoms, it's pretty hard. You can't have gut symptoms and no leaky gut, they go hand in hand. So,
But some people like to get tested, don't they, Jacqui?
Yeah.
And that is possible with a urine test.
And
that's correct.
That's right. And sometimes this testing side of things, with all testing, and why, you know, we often do this, often the symptoms are so clear, but having a bit of paper, sometimes it does help you to be consistent, I guess, and it also can help us with how long to treat for. So for a leaky gut example, there are different ranges that you will get back from your testing, and that's with all things we're talking about tonight. So, you know, a testing will give us that further information, and then it can be a lot clearer as to how long to treat for, and you know, can keep people a bit more committed, I find, which is one of the benefits.
Yep.
Yeah. Alrighty. So my turn. Hormones. So, yeah, I could talk about this stuff all day long, as my friends know, bless them. Alrighty. Now there's a few more people logging on. Feel free to say hi, guys. Thanks for joining us. It's so good to see so many of you here, which is fabulous. So I just wanted to cover first off, you know, what are hormones? Because sometimes we even think, you know, what does that even mean when we talk about hormonal problems and hormonal drivers? So these are the main ones, especially that are influenced by the stress, is your estrogen, your progesterone, your testosterone, your thyroid group of hormones, your insulin levels. So this is all your sugar balancing side of things, and can have issues with PCOS. And then our stress hormones, so our cortisol and our DHEA, and the cortisol is one we talk about a lot, obviously with Danielle, with the gut connection, you know, that can make a big difference as to what's going on. So, and also for the guys here, you know, men do make all of these as well, just in different ratios, mainly with your estrogen and your testosterone, obviously. But when we talk about, you know, all these situations, it doesn't actually matter, male or female. You know, when you've got estrogen problems, it can happen for both. So we do see a lot of these symptoms flow through to both sexes. Alrighty, thanks, Danielle.
Yes, I'm trying to make it happen, and here we go.
Alrighty, so let's just cover off on, you know, what are your hormones even doing for you, and why are they so critical? The main things that I see in clinic is really, you know, for menstruating women, obviously supporting a regular cycle, and also for peri to postmenopausal balance. So this sort of age group, I guess, between maybe 40 to 60, where there can be that real shift in hormones. If your hormones are balanced, you will find that area a lot easier. Hormones have a big relationship with your, you know, how you're sleeping, how you're managing your anxiety, how you're managing your mood, and just your general well-being as well. So a lot of the time when people say, you know, or, you know, maybe your blood tests are fine or everything's fine, what we need to remember is there are things like your hormones that will impact, you know, all areas of your health. Same with weight management, immune function, energy, things like even your hair growth, sugar balancing, and inflammation as well. They're all balancing for these areas, so they have such a good flow-on effect with how they interact in the body, I guess. So I just wanted to run through some signs that maybe your hormones are out of balance and what to look for, and the first things we start thinking about to recognise different imbalances. So it might be things like a missing period, you know, irregular periods can be a really big sign. The hot flushes, PMS, so that, you know, maybe that horrible time you have that week before your period, sometimes even 2 weeks for some women. The weight gain can be this cortisol issue around the middle, like around the waist, that people notice again in that area. Fatigue or unrefreshing sleep, I find this is a big one. People feel like they're sleeping okay, but they're waking up feeling quite tired and, you know, not refreshed, ready for the day. Heavy or painful periods, things like headaches, sugar or carb cravings can be a sign as well. And then this low resilience to stress comes back to these adrenal hormones. So people that feel like, you know, maybe they can't cope with the stress as well as they used to, and things like that. So they, as you can see, they do have a big influence on, you know, your symptoms and what's going on there. Thanks. Alrighty. So we've got the effects of stress on our hormones. So this is a big one, because we often think of, you know, maybe period pain and stress as two different things, but, you know, all these hormonal symptoms we've just talked about can really feed through and affect a lot of the hormonal activity. So, for example, there will be things like a decrease of connection, or like what we call a feedback mechanism from your brain down to your ovaries, and they kind of stop talking as well. So this can lead to the irregular periods, can cause light or heavy periods depending on a couple of other things, even hot flushes and low mood symptoms. Also can cause an increased blood sugar response. So this is where people feel like, you know, they're craving sugars really badly or carbohydrates, they're noticing weight gain easily, due to often the cortisol response. High testosterone, we have this, I guess, this unfortunate thing where we get, you know, high blood sugar, that affects your ovaries, and then you can get high testosterone, and then PCOS, hair growth, cysts, all those sort of things we think about with high testosterone symptoms. And then the stress on the sleep. So we've all felt it, you know, you have a bad run of stress and then all of a sudden your sleep goes haywire. So this will cause a lack of deep sleep. We're not getting into that real deep nourishing sleep that we need, about an hour and a half, even better 2 hours of per night. And then we're getting, you know, these effects on our melatonin. So melatonin we think of as a sleep hormone, but often it's actually a lot more than that. It has to do with your immune function, can also cause brain fog and poor memory and this sort of thing. So there's all these flow-on effects you're getting just from not having a good night's sleep. And then we've got the increased sympathetic nervous system. So this is the, you know, fight or flight nervous system, and that can go on and affect a lot of other things as well. So really a lot of these stress-related anxiety type headaches, teariness, low mood, that sort of thing can be contributing there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, a few of you commenting there about all of the above. People I love. So we've got the cranial as the vagus nerve. So this is one of my favourite nerves and favourite things about the nervous system to talk about, because it's actually, as Danielle said, being our longest cranial nerve, it actually impacts so many organs all through our body, and we've got a picture coming up which we'll show you. Mm-hmm. But it does the opposite to activating your fight or flight. So your stress response, it actually does the calming response. So the rest and digest, as Danielle said. And this helps calm the body. So we should be able to have a stress. The vagus nerve should kick back in and balance us back down to a parasympathetic state and calm us down. And it's also the reason we often feel, as we said, the stress in the gut, because, you know, you'll have this impact of the vagus nerve, what we call switching off in the digestion, and then, like, you know, your digestion can feel really upset and irritated just from this vagus nerve not doing its job. So we've got a picture here which shows you the nerve itself, in the sense of it going down the spine, and then all the different organs that it innervates. So things like, and we think about this with stress, you know, our pupils would constrict, we'd have like tighter breathing, maybe slowing the heartbeat to help with the stress side of things. Oh, sorry, this is the opposite. Slowing the heartbeat to help calm things. Helps peristalsis, so helps the bowel sort of move along and swish along the bowel motions. And you also see that it's got some little lines to the ovaries as well. So it will pretty much talk to the ovaries. This is how your brain and ovaries are communicating to each other. So it's just fascinating how much the stress will impact all these organs. When you think that the stress isn't, it's having a huge impact. Unfortunately, we can't escape it, guys. It's, you know, it's something to take seriously, because it does have a big effect on the body. Mm-hmm. So we've got here the vagus nerve is also switching, obviously, as we said, trying to switch on the ovaries. And what I see with a lot of women is if they're not ovulating well and not having regular periods, often it's because of this vagus nerve. So if we can help calm it down, all of a sudden people will start maybe kicking off a regular cycle again, just by us supporting the stress in the nervous system. And then, so what we can do to actually support the vagus nerve. Now, because it's running down the back of our throat, in the back of the spine here, anything that activates the throat is really good. So singing in the shower, humming in the shower, gargling in the shower, you know, all these things could be done every morning, you know, which is a perfect time, I think, to get this nerve activated. Laughing, so that's why we feel good after a good laugh, a good movie or something. Alternate nostril breathing, so that's literally, you know, you can do 4 breaths on each side and alternate. That's, you know, helps the brain kind of activate this nerve. yoga, you know, meditation, all those beautiful things. Cold showers. I'd love to hear if anyone's on the cold shower bandwagon. Scarily enough, I'm back to doing the cold showers in this weather, and it's quite incredible how motivating it can be in the mornings, and how much your brain will calm after that, because it's like a compensation. You know, the body tries to calm us down knowing that there's a bit of an external stress going on. And then one of my other favorites is getting people to lay with their legs up before bed. So just doing that activates this nerve, and it's a really beautiful thing to do before sleep to help calm the body down and help get that restful sleep that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Danielle's love.
Oh, too far. Let me go back. Okay. So now Jacqui and I are going to talk about the microbiome versus the estrobolome.
Yeah.
So the microbiome is inside the gut. So the microbiome, when we talk about it specifically, it really is the genetic material that's contained within the community called the microbiota. But we've written it this way because everyone refers to the community of bacteria living in your gut as the microbiome. Now, what do they do for us? You know, we're learning more and more about how important they are for us. You know, 10 years ago, we didn't even know they were in there, or how many were in there. So they actually provide protection along your gut linings. They can peak the site. So think of a car park. So think of your gut as a car park, the lining. And the more good bacteria that fill those car spaces, there's actually not enough room for bad bacteria that come in, maybe, you know, with contaminated food or something that we've, you know, touched and then touched our mouth. So if bad bacteria come in, but the spaces are taken up by good bacteria in your gut, or commensals, so the ones that have been in there from the beginning, there's no space for the baddies to attach to the wall, so they just have to keep moving through. So they also produce kind of like, I guess, antibiotics and antibacterial agents for us. So they're actually helping to protect us in that way too. And they produce SCFAs, which are short-chain fatty acids. And these actually help to repair the leaky gut that we showed you the picture before. They actually help to bring those tight junctions back together. So that's really, really important that they're in there doing that for us and protecting us. And they communicate with our immune system. You know, they are our immune system, but they communicate messages to the body to let the body know if anything needs to be done. So the bacteria inside your gut will communicate to the immune system that sits just on the other side, which is only 1 cell thick, to let them know if anything needs to be made, if there needs to be inflammation so that we can heal something. So they're really helping us all the time. They also help us absorb some extra nutrients from the food that makes it to the bowel, to the large bowel. So they get the last little bit of calories out, because when we didn't have food around all the time, we needed that to happen. And they also synthesize some minerals and vitamins for us, and they help with excretion as well. Okay.
Fascinating, isn't it? How much the you know, bacteria in our gut can help us in life. It's just incredible.
Yeah, we need them.
Yeah. And this is where, you know, we talk about, we're not going to go tonight as much, but, you know, if you're lacking this area in your gut, then obviously you can see what might be lacking in your life, just because you're missing, you know, different strains of bacteria. So it's very important to have a good variety and diversity of these. So you've actually got another set of bacteria in the gut called the estrobolome, which is actually pretty much the bacteria that will help to balance your estrogen. And this is the area that we know, you know, for example, when you are getting rid of estrogen in the body, it'll go through the 3 phases in the liver, and then the last phase is getting out the digestive system. So what's often happening here is if you've got, you know, this gut bacteria that helps regulate how much estrogen is, you know, being pushed out through the stool, then, you know, that's great in the sense that that's what it's there for. But if this estrobolome isn't working properly due to bad bacterial overgrowth, so SIBO, like Danielle said, or other gut infections, fungal infections, it actually messes with the levels of these bacteria, and then all of a sudden the body is reabsorbing this estrogen back into the body. And what we've kind of imagined it like is these bacteria, the good bacteria that help it get out, it's kind of like packaging it up in a little box just to make sure that it gets sent out through the stool properly. But when this bacteria isn't in check, the little boxes open back up and the free-floating estrogen kind of floats back out, you know, and absorbs back through the colon wall. And then it literally has to try and do it again, or it might be storing as a fat cell or having an effect on a cell in the body. And that's contributing to things like, you know, the weight gain, heavy periods, PMS, headaches, endometriosis, all these things like, you know, that are caused by high estrogen. So therefore, just having poor gut health flows on and causes poor hormone health. So just that alone is just such a big factor with the gut and hormone connection as well. Alrighty. So the other area that we talk about, and I just mentioned there with the liver, is that if you have had long-term gut problems, and often, you know, as Danielle will see as well, that a lot of the time with gut, it's been a lifelong journey for people. It hasn't just been, hasn't it, Danielle, like, you know, 5, 10, 20-year journey for this gut stuff that's been sometimes okay, then it gets worse and so on. But if this has been the case, just naturally that's going to put extra pressure back on your liver detox pathways, because there's like a backup of toxicity that the liver has to deal with. And this is putting extra stress on the way your body metabolizes hormones. So just that alone, again, you might be getting some estrogen dominance symptoms based on a poor liver. And then if you've got the poor gut stuff happening as well, you kind of have a double whammy happening there, unfortunately. And when we think about liver, often we think about like, oh, you know, I'd have to be drinking a lot or having a really fatty diet. But there's a lot of research now that tells us that just stress alone, the effect of cortisol on the liver can cause fatty liver. So, you know, again, we can't escape the stress. It's having this effect on our liver just from having an increase in cortisol. The other area that we look at with this link with the gut and hormones is there can be the inflammation in the gut, which can also increase a couple of these hormones related to fat storage, and also which fat we're storing there. So either it's the white or the brown, and it's the white fat we're storing, which is harder to shift. And then that can have like its own inflammatory markers kind of within inside that fat cell as well. So, you know, as you can kind of already gather, if you are not addressing your gut symptoms, then there's a lot of stuff that can potentially be happening. So if you're trying to lose weight, but you've got gut issues, you know, that might be where you need to actually start. And that's why we often do start with the gut, don't we, Danielle? We sort of get the gut done, and that's the big area as naturopaths that we love focusing on. The other thing with inflammation is it will, if it's inflamed, it will cause an enzyme called DAO to become lower, which actually causes higher histamines. And this is when we see people with maybe hormonal problems as well as like sinus problems or hay fever or allergies. And this histamine can actually trigger its own estrogen problems again. So again, you've got this higher level of estrogen floating around in the body. The other area we look at with hormones and gut is the estrogen will also delay the amount of emptying that your bowel does, so it can cause some more constipation in the bowel. And because of this, you're going to be more prone to growing gut infections like SIBO. So you can see how much this is having a flow-on effect just by having some sluggish areas in the gut. It will really affect how much your estrogen's being metabolized. And this is for guys as well. This is where we're seeing issues with estrogen dominant, perhaps cancers in men, or, you know, weight gain in men and things like that, hair changes as well.
And Jacqui, just to check something as well, is, you know, you're talking about inflammation, and then that, you know, can cause more fat storage. Then that fat storage has its own estrogen, and that produces more inflammation. And do we see this in men who also drink and then they get more fat storage around their belly? Is this why some of us get more fat storage around the tummy? Does that happen a lot in men?
Yes, and usually we say that's probably the cortisol that's the issue, the fat storage around the waist. And that's right, that's this point here we've got with the inflammation in the gut. It's going to be causing a higher level of cortisol, and then we unfortunately get the storage around the tummy area. So it's something all need to be conscious of for sure. And definitely weight gain, you know, even if you're eating nothing, you know, a low calorie diet and you're exercising like crazy, but you've got this gut stuff and this stress stuff going on, it's no wonder you might be having trouble shifting some weight.
Yep, definitely need to look at the stress, the gut, and inflammation that's going on.
Yeah,
great. Sure. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. I think you're gonna cover.
Oh, yes, I am. So we also wanted to talk about how the gut and hormones are connected, because a lot of us, you know, we think that a lot of hormones are just made in the brain. But again, with all the research that's being done into the gut, we've actually learnt that so many hormones are made in the gut. So again, you need a healthy gut to help your hormones. So serotonin is made in the gut. So that's your happy hormone. 80% is made in the gut. That's because the gut needs it as well. The gut needs it to have good flow and motility. We used to just think it was only for mood, but now because of all the gut research, we know we need it for mood and so many functions of the gut. If you have less serotonin, then your gut rhythm gets out of balance, and then you can have worsening of pain and sensations. And yeah, maybe you'll get constipated, or, you know, if you have too much, then you'll get a bit more diarrhea. Melatonin also is another hormone we've always heard of for sleep, but it also helps with gut motility and sensation. So your gut does make some melatonin, which, yeah, we always just thought it was to help us go to sleep. And oxytocin, again, is a love hormone. It's released when a mother has a baby, but it is also released after you know, when people are making love and have orgasms. It's that love hormone that helps us to connect and bond to people. But through all this gut research, they found there's so many receptors throughout the whole gut, not the gallbladder. That's the only organ that misses out on the extra love. But, you know, it's made by microorganisms, or the microbiota in the gut as well. And it decreases stress hormones and the effect of stress hormones. So again, gut, hormones, stress, it's just, you know, beautifully intertwined. So we need to look at all those things.
Definitely. Excellent. So
okay,
yep. Start making here.
Yeah, so these, Jacqui and I really wanted to provide you with some tools that, you know, if you need herbs and nutrients, yes, you might need to see someone, but these are things you can do tomorrow. You know, you can do some tonight. So really chew, because when I talked about the mind and chewing, you know, that really gets your digestion started, makes more enzymes. So we all, well, a lot of patients I see just eat way too quickly. And sitting at a table, guys, like no sitting on the couch watching, you know, TV and eating, you're going to have reflux, bloating and pain. Like that can get rid of 15 to 20% of it, you know, straight away. We really want to eat a variety of plant foods, because every single color you eat will give you something different. So even if you're eating apples, don't always eat pink ladies. Try, you know, a Granny Smith. My daughter loves Golden Delicious. So, you know, you need to try those different things. Just don't eat the same 5 plants every day. Movement is super important for the gut. Like you move, your gut will move, it gets massaged. We need to do all of those things, and really taking out those processed foods that, you know, are available inside the supermarket, not around the edges, but, you know, in the middle, because they just really put a lot more stress on the gut. There's more things to detox, more chemicals to detox. A lot of emulsifiers found in processed foods will start to break down your gut lining. So you really need to, you know, minimize those things and just start slow. Like it doesn't have to be overwhelming.
Yeah, that's right. And, you know, there's some other things like with the stress reduction, obviously, these are the things we can do just at home. It doesn't have to be a big, you know, event to go and take on some of these changes that you can make. So having a think about, you know, your bedtime routine, what's happening half an hour before bed is a really big one, just to try and wind down the body so you're getting more restful, more deeper sleep. And then the lovely stress reduction. So just even breathing, you know, we forget how much just our breath can make a difference to turning on this vagus nerve and helping to calm down the body, reminding the body that we're calm. We're such short breathers and shallow breathers. So just by doing some deep breathing a couple of times a day, you know, in through the nose, out through the mouth, you could do like the nostril breathing or a counted breath. Will actually tell your brain, hey, you know, this person isn't so much, there's not so much stress going on right now. vagus nerve can kick in, and all these things like your digestion and making hormones and making energy can happen a lot easier. Obviously keeping hydrated, so we know how much that impacts, you know, from a gut point of view, brain hydration, cleansing out the liver and excess, you know, toxins that we're holding on to. So just keeping hydrated, especially in these cooler months. You know, herbal teas still count, but being conscious of your, you know, things like your alcohol and your coffee that are going to dehydrate you more. And then, you know, again, with alcohol, we've got the issue there with, you know, touching the gut and causing inflammation and estrogen problems and that sort of thing. So and it can be tricky, I know, for some, and especially during this whole COVID thing. I know some people have kind of slipped a little bit with some of their alcohol intake, but it's really important to watch that because it just makes such a big difference. And I think it's having a think about why you're looking for the alcohol. You know, does that mean maybe you need to do something to address your stress? You know, do you need to eat better? Because often we're looking for these things in times of, you know, stress or emotion that, you know, it's best obviously to deal with those things in another way. And not eating too late so that your body has time to break down your food before you go to bed. It's not sitting there heavy, and you have a more restful, deeper sleep. And having a longer fast, isn't it, Danielle? So we can have some nice time without food on our gut, and we can go into this autophagy where our body starts cleaning up all the junk in the body if we're having a longer fast overnight, which is always good. And then we always encourage, I think, you know, in clinic, both of us really love trying to empower people on all these really simple changes you can make at home. But I know for both of us, unfortunately, we see so many people that, I guess, go for years without having these things properly dealt with. So we do encourage people, if something doesn't feel right, you know, keep pushing for investigation and some answers. Because there's always a reason why your body's doing something. You know, our body doesn't just chuck symptoms at us just for fun. There's, you know, an underlying reason why. And if we can help you, you know, investigate that a bit easier and guide you on that, then it's such an easier path, you know, for you guys. So that gives you a few things to have a think about and hopefully start implementing. So feel free to chuck your comments or questions in the chat box. Just make sure you do it to everyone, and that way everyone can see the comments that are coming up as well. And then we can either put some answers in there or reply back. So I'm just gonna maybe start at the top here. There's one there from Ryan, Danielle, which is probably, so we've got, from a pH perspective, how much can we actually influence our pH? Good question. So yes, we've got the buffering system, but is there evidence to demonstrate how like diet or supplements can change it in a meaningful way? Did you want to?
I'll take that one. Yes, so we do have a good buffering system, but today's world is just overwhelming our body. All the processed foods that we talked about before, stress, it's just overwhelming it. And so what your body will do is actually take minerals out of your bone and muscle to make your blood that perfect pH. So we don't want our body constantly doing this, because research is showing that leads to osteoporosis. So we can, if you look at pH charts, you will find that you can look at all the different pHs of food. You know, having things like more bananas with some eggs, you can make a banana and egg pancake. That can really offset a lot of acid that's coming in. And, you know, we do want certain areas of our body to be acidic, like the stomach. We don't want to mess with that, because then that gets the right pH set up throughout the body. And I don't ever say, and I'm sure Jacqui doesn't say this, that you can't have any acidic foods. We do want, you know, about a third. I always look at a plate. A third can be acidic. So this might be, you know, any animal protein is going to be acidic, and then 2/3 should be the vegetables. So it's always about balance. But yeah, definitely changing your diet can help. But so many people are putting way too much acidic foods, and our body has never had to deal with this amount of acid before.
Yeah, just don't have the system, the capacity for it, do we? It's
an
interesting one. And keeping in mind, you know, an acidic body just won't function as well. So this is where the diet, isn't it? It's just so huge for some of this stuff. Alrighty, so we've got one from Rachel here. Can you have high cortisol even if the tests don't show it? So you've had your blood, urine, saliva test done. I'd be curious to know, Rachel, if they've done your metabolized cortisol and if that maybe didn't show, because that should have been done in your urine, the metabolized, but you've got the stubborn belly weight. So I would be, it's not, if you've had urine and it's done properly through the dried urine, and you've had your metabolized cortisol done, and that's not showing high either, then technically no, that shouldn't be the cause. But what might be going on is more of an estrogen or a estrogen dominant situation. So you might be just having high estrogen to the amount of progesterone that you're making, and this can happen anytime in your life. And just that alone can contribute to weight sort of anywhere in the body. The other thing we think about there is insulin as well. So whether or not maybe there's some insulin resistance going on, and that might have been just history of stress. Maybe the cortisol's balanced out a bit now, but you're left with some of this insulin resistance side of thing. Let me just jump down and make sure you haven't asked anything else there. So hopefully that's answered your question, Rachel. All right. There we go. Did you want to do that one with the kombucha?
Yes. Samantha's asked, do we recommend making and drinking kombucha? Look, that's not one of the first things that I jump to when I'm treating gut patients, but that's because most of my gut patients have dysbiosis going on, so an overgrowth of bad bacteria, and a lot of them can find this can cause extra belching, reflux, and I expect that to happen. So it can be part of a healthy diet later on when you've dealt with the bacterial overgrowth, when you've looked at healing the gut lining. But really, I think, again, sometimes this stuff is now available everywhere and we might drink, 200 to 300 mils a day. I'd be looking at more 100 to 150 a day just to top that up. Again, everything in balance. But it is, it can definitely help some people to feel amazing, but with my patients with gut inflammation, that's not where I start.
And it can be a bit of a test, can't it? Like I'll often say to people, if you're responding negatively to kombucha, I often think, oh, it's good for me, it's got to be good, but sometimes too much or even any can aggravate bacteria growing in your stomach, bad bacteria. So if you're reacting badly to it, it might be a sign that something has to be addressed there. The belly massage, I don't personally do as in, I don't know if you mean with constipation or...
Oh, yeah. Do we recommend belly massage? Because I have a lot of patients, as you know, with gut, I do have a handout on belly massage just to help expel excess gas and help with constipation. Just always going in that clockwise direction because that's how your bowel moves.
Yeah, great. Good idea. And something easy you can do laying in bed at night at home.
Yeah, Jacqui, next one's for you, I think.
All right, good old Dutch. So thanks, Bethany. So high E1, estrogen, cortisol, made lots of changes, but still for my gut health needs help. Fermented foods. So again, probably just what we touched on there, I would only be recommending fermented foods if you felt really good in your tummy. So if you felt like there was some gut health stuff going on in the way of bloating, poor motions, reflux, anything that's aggravating the gut, I wouldn't necessarily go fermented food straight away. So you might more look at doing what we call like a killing off, as in weeding out the bad bacteria first before you look at improving the growth of the other good bacteria. Just because we know how much gut health has an impact on your estrogen levels, and whether or not the gut was done first. So when I have clients like this, I would always do gut first, because there's no point pushing out estrogen through other areas of the body. It will just dump more on the gut, and then you'll recirculate that estrogen. So you just want to make sure when you've had your Dutch done and you've done the treatment, that it's been done in the right order. You don't want to do liver then gut. You want to do the gut first as well. Alrighty.
Okay, Vicky. Okay, loved our presentation. That's lovely. Thank you so much. If the brain gut hormone cycle is a vicious cycle, where do you start with the healing and treatment? sometimes you need to do a little bit of everything at once. So even though I might be treating someone's gut, I'll also treat their nervous system, because without the nervous system calming down, you know, the gut is not going to start healing. And same with hormones. Sometimes if, you know, you have high hormones, Jacqui can speak more to this, but you know, you'll need to work sometimes on all three at once. And just when we're sitting with patients, you know, we've been doing this for so long, we know where that kind of which parts are the most important, and sometimes you might give a patient one supplement for each area. It's really an individual thing. Jacqui, did you want to?
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I think definitely, as we've talked about, probably if all else fails, start with, you know, digestion, but then, like, yeah, exactly, putting in those lifestyle things. There's some fabulous herbs we use for calming down the nervous system. Sometimes people are so, you know, highly stressed and highly strung that, you know, unfortunately some of these general lifestyle things won't really touch the sides in the early days. So there are some beautiful calming herbs we can use to, you know, start resetting the body while you are implementing some of these changes as well. So it's a tricky one as to where to start, but, you know, I would always say gut first. You know, I wouldn't go in and do liver or replenishing the body too much until we know that this gut is healed and working well. Because it just kind of, I just find it works backwards otherwise. Do you find that, Danielle, that it just sort of gets the results the same?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we've got a few questions as well about accessing the recording after. We haven't put it as a, you know, we are recording, but we haven't put it as a live link after. We'll probably have a bit of discussion as to maybe we will perhaps be able to share it with, you know, the people that were on here tonight as a bit of a thank you for coming. Yeah, I'm sure that would be fine if we can do that.
But you're on our email list, so if we do anything or whatever we're up to, you will know about it.
Yeah, exactly. Alrighty. Okay, so yes. Okay, so Ruby. All right, so you've got sort of a couple of different things happening there, some mood, anxiety stuff, IBS, Candida, and SIBO in the past. If both brain and gut are out of whack, how do I do my best to balance them in the long run? Good question. So I think, you know, long term, I always sort of talk to clients about what are your non-negotiables? It's working out for you. What do you need to do in life to keep you fairly stable? And often, you know, we know what our things are that we can't get away with. Perhaps it might be, you know, to keep the brain healthy. Okay, so that might be your good sleep.
Sleep.
Yeah, it's called sleep. Some stress management in the day, and not letting those things get you out of hand. You know, knowing that that might be your thing. Okay, don't schedule too much, you know, too many nights in a row, or, you know, it's knowing what your body can get away with, I think, a lot of the time in these areas. And same with the gut, you know, we don't want to say, oh, let's heal the gut and then you can go back to a normal diet. You know, what do you need to maintain to help? And that's pretty much, I would say, like an 80-20 kind of rule we get to there, I think. Most of the time you just want to really live by what you know works really well for you. And then you can have that bit of leeway on the weekends, perhaps. If you're still finding that's causing problems, though, there's probably still some healing to be done. Like I find a lot of my clients, once we've got through the gut stuff and the infections, most people can, you know, manage their foods and not have any bloating or discomfort. But if you're having symptoms, you might not be quite there yet. There still might be some work to do. Do you want to?
No, that's perfect. I think, you know, everything you've said is what I would do. Jane has asked, you know, do we recommend probiotics? Yes, I do. I use probiotics with many of my patients. It's really about, you know, you need to use a strain. So strain specificity is important here. You need to use a strain that was clinically researched and trialed, because lactobacillus doesn't mean anything. You know, if they say lactobacillus and they tell you there's so many bacteria in there, that actually doesn't tell you what you're using or what effects that bacteria has in your gut. So, you know, just say for bloating, I will use Lactobacillus plantarum 299V. you need that number at the end to know what job you're going to get that bacteria once it goes in your body to do. I use lots and lots of probiotics. All of them have clinically trialed strains, and I use different ones for different times and different parts of the healing process. So yeah, I love them. But just buying one off the shelf that's not in the fridge and you don't have the numbers at the end, I think you probably won't get much of an effect.
Yeah, it can make a big difference getting the quality. I've actually also got one here that just came privately as well. Just, is there a way to deal with the bloating? And obviously just saying it's common with women and bloating. And, you know, I think this is the thing with a lot of health conditions, isn't it? Yes, it's common, but it's not normal. So even if your friends have got it, whether it's PMS, bloating, heavy periods, you know, gut issues, the point we want to get clear is that, you know, it's something that can be resolved. And whether it's, I think the key to finding out whether it's hormonal or gut related is it flaring up with your period? Is it flaring up just before a cycle? That's often when you know, okay, maybe my hormones are driving this more. If it's consistent and every day, then you know, the ideal way there is working out, I guess, which part, like, is it, you know, the top of your stomach, the digestion, you know, and there's, obviously this is probably when working with a practitioner can help kind of break down those areas. Is there anything you want to add there, Danielle?
Yeah, no, just usually in a consult we would ask so many questions to find out what kind of bloating you have. You know, does it start at the beginning of the day? Is it worse with food? Do you wake up with bloating? I'll do some abdominal exam in my consult if people can come in. So, you know, that certain points that I press on will tell me what organ in the digestive system might be sluggish. But really the bloating, if you want to do a lifestyle thing, chew each mouthful 20 to 30 times. Like, you need to start seeing how, if you're the first one to finish your meal at a dinner table, like when we could go out and eat with friends, that's going to be a huge contributor to your bloating. Yeah,
Definitely.
Okay.
Maybe you would answer this one as well, Danielle. Organic bone broth for like gut healing collagen, is that a good thing, or is it classed as too acidic?
Okay, so if you have irritable bowel syndrome, or you possibly have some kind of infection, or SIBO, which is that small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, bone broth is probably going to flare you up because it has too much collagen and too much mucilaginous stuff that has come out of the bones, and that can feed the overgrowths in bacteria. You know, other than that, yes, bone broth is a beautiful thing. You know, I don't do it every day, but I do make my own broths and keep them in the freezer, and I'll use it to make my soups. And also I'll use it in everyone in the family if we're getting colds or if someone's feeling unwell. It's not acidic, it's not too acidic to have that, but it can cause problems in certain populations of people.
Okay. And there's just a couple of questions here on the strains of probiotics.
Yep. So again, I did mention for bloating, pain and gas, I love Lactobacillus plantarum 299B. And, you know, the other strains I use are really practitioner only. You know, you can, if you have a cold or you're getting sick all the time, you know, I would probably recommend Inner Health from pharmacy, but the ones that I use in clinic are practitioner only. One of them is Lactobacillus reuteri DSM, I think it's 9278, but that again, it's practitioner only. But that can really help with constipation or motility issues. But yeah. Okay.
All right, we'll get a few more of these, and then we might have to, I mean, if people need to go, feel free, we can try and get through as many of these as we can.
We can try a few, to get through.
Maybe we'll just answer this one here from Sarah.
Yep.
Tassie, been going, lots of tummy stuff going on, lots of gas, irregular bowels, fairly good diet and fasting daily. Oh, excuse me, that's an hour of talking, isn't it? Low carbs and sugar, PCOS, irregular periods. Won't test in the past, I won't show anything. Oh, excuse me. I've got a dry throat. Sorry, Danielle.
Okay, I'll keep reading. So do fasting daily, low carbs and sugar, generally healthy. Do have PCOS and extremely irregular periods. 21 days of bleeding. Had hormone tests in the past. They haven't shown any major irregularities. The only real difference I can see so far is we now drink tank water. Could this be an issue? You know, water sources are important. I have heard of people getting, you know, a buildup of heavy metals or toxins or even bacteria from different sources of water. I have heard of that. I guess, you know, you could send your water off for testing to see if that's, you know, if there's anything in there. Jacqui?
Yeah, I agree. I've had a few clients that have had lived on property with tanks, and interestingly, when they moved house, that's when, you know, or they've had, we've tested one where it's running off the roof, and obviously there's old roofs or, you know, different metals exposed to with some toxins. So yeah, I would definitely be getting on to testing your water and seeing what's going on there for sure. Definitely.
I think that's the first step now. Seeing as you've done some stuff already. Aylin, do you recommend my facial release and craniosacral therapy to help balance the nervous system and improve all body systems? Yep, I recommend my patients. I've got someone I refer them to, especially with SIBO. I do send them to someone who does visceral manipulation that can help break up adhesions in the gut, and she does craniosacral as well. So I love it. I've had a treatment with her. And yeah, definitely noticed some differences and some shifts. So yes, I do refer.
Yeah, definitely.
Another one with brands of probiotics. Yeah, look, I'd say if you can't see like Jacqui or I or another practitioner in your area, I would probably go Inner Health, because they do use clinically trialled strains, and you'll see a number at the end of that strain. So yeah, that's my only recommendation I guess I can make for that, on top of everything else we've said.
Okay, and then there's just a couple of questions down there about bone broth recipes. So perhaps we've got you on our email list, so maybe that might be something Danielle can help with. With some of that.
Yep, I've got a good Polish one that I actually give patients when they're doing a gut healing and detox program. So maybe Jacqui and I will organise that for you guys.
Yeah, for sure. And then we've got lots of thank yous, and really appreciate, and I guess from our end, we really appreciate you being here, because it helps us spread, you know, this knowledge and our passion for health and gut and hormones. And we just ask that, you know, you tell somebody about something you might have learned tonight, because I think if we can empower you guys to share the information, it's going to help, you know, other people struggling with health concerns, and bring some awareness to maybe natural medicines, and you know, the opportunities that can come through seeing a naturopath or a natural therapist with, you know, balancing some of these things you guys have got going on.
Yep, exactly. We just really want to spread, you know, what the power of natural medicine, and that we take the whole person into consideration. And something Jacqui and I see again and again is people coming in that have been told there's nothing wrong with them. They've had every test. The doctor can maybe prescribe one pill that, you know, does one job, has lots of side effects. I'm not dismissing, you know, normal medicine either, because you know, it's wonderful in emergencies. But when, you know, I just don't want people to settle for that, you know, as Jacqui said before, that there's nothing wrong with you. You know, trust your body, trust yourself, and you can definitely find the answer, because, you know, we found natural medicine was the answer for us, and that's why we do what we do.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. All right. And so you can, there's a few people in there just sort of generally asking, oh, I've got someone from Scotland. Thanks, Anne-Marie. Sorry. I know I've got a few emails from people in the UK saying, unfortunately, the links were a bit late. So we'll do a recording to share with you guys. And if anyone else has missed it, maybe let us know, because we can put them on us. Maybe we'll just do a little group of who was here tonight, so you guys get the special recording. So fabulous! Thanks for joining all the way from Scotland. How exciting!
That's incredible.
Oh, thanks, Emma. Thank you so much. That's lovely of you. And so maybe just let you know about how you can find Danielle. You can find her over on, or both of us, I guess, in the same thing.
Yep.
Good old
Yep.
Facebook and Instagram, and that's, you know, probably our main channels of information.
Yes.
Where we're sharing stuff.
You'll find our email, our web address, you know, through those social media.
Yeah.
So you can definitely, you know, if there's anything you need to ask us, check. We're always happy to help people. So, you know, just get in touch.
Yep, that's right. And I've got a few people asking there about consultations. So both of us, you know, practice within our clinics in Adelaide, but also, you know, Zoom and phone as well. So both of us speak to a lot of people Australia-wide now.
Yes.
You know, which is a great way we can have people just like this having a chat online, and products to your door and testing to your door and all that sort of thing. So it doesn't actually really restrict it too much at all now, which is fabulous. We can help wherever you are. So thank you so much for joining, and we really appreciate your time, and we will be sending a follow-up email with a few things so you can catch the replay as well.
Excellent.
Thanks, guys.
Good night.
All right. See ya. Thanks, Donna. Thanks, Louise. Thanks, Ryan. Lots of thank yous there. See you guys. Fabulous. All right. Thanks, Danielle.
All right. Thanks, Jacqui.
All
right.
Good night. See ya. All right. Thank you, Danielle. So that ends our webinar for the evening, and we thank you for joining us. We hope you got a lot of value from this, and perhaps it gets you thinking a little bit more about your health, your gut and your hormones, and how important it is to look after all areas of the body to really get to where you want to be with your health. So if you are wanting to find out more information, you can find us both on Facebook and Instagram, or within our clinics in Adelaide, or also practicing via phone and Zoom consultation Australia-wide. Thank you. Good night.